In this video, I'm going to be comparing Darwinex and Darwinex Zero and taking you through the different elements of using the platform. Darwinex is a platform that allows you to trade and account as you like, get funded from the platform, and earn performance fees. You can also get investors to back you because Darwinex acts almost like a fund management bridge between you and the investor. That means rather than seeking out investors yourself, you can trade on the platform, get a stock code that matches or represents your trading and trading style, and get paid a performance fee that's in line with professional fund management firms. Kicking off, I want to let you know that there's two ways to start. So you've got the normal Darwinex, which is where you fund your own account. You don't pay a monthly fee to gain access. You simply trade with the broker and it gets tracked through the Darwinex platform. Then there's Darwinex Zero. Darwinex Zero basically means that you can pay a monthly fee in order to start trading a demo account and building up a D0 score. Basically, that allows you to eventually get funded through your own skills without having to put money up. So as you can see, D0 subscription gives you virtual trading, so it's like a demo account, access to a huge range of tradable assets, MetaTrader 4 and 5 access as your platform, and then access to the Darwin IIA seed capital allocation program. So it shows here $43 per month and you can get started. A lot of people are really focused on the D0 access. However, at $43 a month, if you do have the access to your own capital and you know how to trade properly, it may be better off just going with the regular Darwinex platform, funding your own account and trading as you normally would. That way you get the benefit of your own trading returns as well as the allocations that you get through Darwinex. So there's a minimum balance, I believe, of $500 for personal accounts and €10,000 for corporate accounts. So if you're going to trade under a company, just note that the minimum balance for that is €10,000 or equivalent. I'm here in the Darwinex platform. I much prefer to trade with a real account because then when I'm trading, I can benefit from my actual trading rather than always aiming for the funding alone. So we can see here the Darwinex score. I've got a score of 11.1 and it's been building up over the past month. It seems to be increasing every day or so by a little bit because a few weeks ago it was only at 6 or 7. The return since inception is currently at a loss of about 5% with drawdown of 12% total. We can see here my position in the Darwin IIA Silver, which I'll go through shortly, but here's all of the statistics that you can have a look at. So we've got experience, which comes over time, I believe. We've got market correlation, so how correlated to the market is your trading strategy. We've got risk stability, risk adjustment, open strategy, closed strategy, positive return consistency, negative return consistency, duration consistency, loss aversion, performance, and capacity. Return over risk since inception is -1, and I'm going to show you why it's negative in a moment, but we've got a whole heap of data here as well. So GFZ is my stock code that I created so that other investors can actually come and invest in my stock code. Now, it doesn't exactly match my trading. It actually goes through a range of filters and adjustments using different criteria. This is so that investors are protected from any change in your trading style or volume or that kind of thing, so that you can't just build up a really strong profile and then just all in at a certain time to try and get the most return in a particular month. So we can see here the average deleverage per position, and the deleverage represents the volatility of the Darwin's asset quote. So the deleverage will change and that will alter the amount of risk that's actually put on this stock code compared to your trading. I'm currently participating in the Darwin IIA Silver, so I'll click on this to see how I'm tracking towards getting to gold, and I'll have a look at my current position. So my rating at the moment is 42, and that's been growing over the months, even though I haven't had a positive return, but it's because of the consistency and the build-up of the actual information from my trading. So I'm rating between 40 and 50, and you can see here on this chart about where I'm positioned at the moment. I've currently got no allocation because I'm still quite new to it, and I made some trading errors, which I'll go through shortly. And we can see here, so last month my position was 6,853, and now I've jumped up to 4,901 in the silver category. We can see here the allocation that you can be awarded in the Darwinex funding allocations based on your score. The minimum score requirement, I believe, is about 75. So I'm just scrolling down to see what that looks like. And we can see here that 75 Darwin rating gets you 30,000 euro to trade with. And that actually stacks over, I believe, about 3 months. So if you qualify, you keep this allocation for 3 months, and that can stack. So for example, if you fit the 30k award for 3 months, you're going to end up on about 90,000 euro funded total. That's excluding any investors that have been brought on or find your stock code investable and invest money in you. As you can see, at 74.99, there's zero allocation. So anything above 75 rating gets a minimum allocation of 30,000 euro at this point in time. You can see the top allocation is 375,000 euro, so much higher, and they have a very good rating of 97.69. If you eventually qualify for Darwin IA Gold, which basically means you have a good amount of trading history and you fit the criteria for their returns versus drawdown, then you have access to much larger allocations. So the top one here has an allocation of 500,000 euro. We can see then the amounts drop down, and about 62 participants get at least 50,000 euro according to the current information. So Darwin IA is a monthly capital allocation program. That means that if you fit the criteria, Darwinex funds you and you get to keep 15% in performance fees. As I mentioned earlier, 3 consecutive months is how long you keep the allocation for. So this is much more of a long-term trading style compared to, say, FTMO and prop firms that make you try and earn faster. They have different rules and requirements. There's drawdown limits and all kinds of things to trip you up, which is why they came under fire and had to remove the 30-day issue previously. Darwinex is very different. Their rules are much more in line with how a professional prop firm would want you to trade. So they're looking for long-term, stable results. Stability is far more important than a big win, because a big win doesn't necessarily happen all the time and it can go to zero. While stability means that you gradually increase over time and it's much more investable. So participating is easy. Basically all you do is open an account to actually start and participate, and you can't necessarily have correlation with other Darwins. So you want to make sure that you have somewhat of a unique strategy compared to other people, and generally speaking you're going to have a different strategy, but it's just to stop people stacking, say, 10 or 20 accounts, all trading the same strategy and hoping to get additional funding just because they have more accounts. It's actually really easy to get started. So once you're trading and you're using your MT4 or MT5 platform and you've got your money in there, you're trading as you would with any other broker, and you register for the Darwin IA program, you're basically in. You can see here that I can actually share my Darwin code and allow people to invest in my trading through the Darwinex platform without having to actually be a fund manager myself and go through all of the rules and requirements, which are quite expensive and rigorous. It's much easier to go through Darwinex. So if you've got the skills and you've got the stability, you can actually get funded without having to deal with all of the compliance and costs that go with it. So as you can see, the Darwinex score is different to the actual score that I have against my stock code. For those of you who follow my YouTube strategies and information that I provide, you probably know that I don't generally hold positions for very long. As with any new account, sometimes it's easy to get excited and try and make trades that you perhaps don't usually take on. One day It was several hours after the market opened when I don't usually trade, and the market spiked outside of the R3, so the top purple lines that I often talk about. And I saw an opportunity and I started entering the market a few times, and then the next day and then a few days later as well. So I'm in quite a hefty short position, and eventually it did come down and drop, but I went against the strategy that I normally take, which is a little bit frustrating because I don't normally trade like this. And I know that if I just trade the normal way, then I'll probably end up getting some good funding from Darwinex. I'm looking to exit these positions at about break even if I can. If I get the opportunity, I'd be very happy. So I'm just waiting for the market to perhaps correct a little bit further and exit these positions and continue trading how I normally trade. So the moral of the story here is don't get too excited, just try and stick to your rules and stick to your plan. It's not worth chopping and changing because the tried and tested strategy that you have, if you've already got one, is going to be better than taking a stab in the dark and hoping for the best and trying to force early wins when it's a long-term game. So as far as the rules go, there's not actually specific rules. So you can trade however you like, obviously not manipulating the platform and that kind of thing. But if you're trading in a normal sort of a fashion, it's going to be allowed. If you go into heavier drawdown than you normally would, which I have on this position, it doesn't cut you out because you've gone over the 10%. What happens is the Darwinex investable attributes comes into play, and it has an algorithm that basically adapts your risk to make it more investable. So rather than trying to manipulate these scores, the whole idea is to basically trade properly, take your time, and manage your risk effectively. But if you do go over the risk level that you're meant to have, don't stress too much. If you can pull it back and just continually trade long term, have that sort of 1 to 5 year investment horizon, and there's a good chance you're going to start getting funded month over month if you're doing the right things. So once you've built up enough history, it'll show you that it's collaborating your returns, and you'll eventually get to create your own stock code. So once you get your stock code, you're participating in the silver program, and you want to get to gold because there's more funding available. That means that within a minimum track record of 8 months, you're going to want to get to about 20% return, and then you're going to need to also earn 2.5 times your max drawdown. So you can see here mine's negative 0.5 and I'm at negative 5%. I actually need to get to 31.2% return before I'm eligible for the gold allocations or the gold program, because that would be 2.5 times my max drawdown, as long as my max drawdown doesn't increase from this level. So keeping your max drawdown low early on is very important so that you can more easily get to, say, the 20% without having to go higher than that just to simply get access to gold. Here's an example of gold and silver funding between first, second, and third month. So let's say you hit the top for gold and you're sitting at 1.5 million over 3 months. So you've got your final month and you've got an allocation 1.5 million. Let's say you earn 1% on that trading capital. Your performance fees would be €2,250. On silver, let's say you hit the minimum allocation 3 months in a row, you end up on 90,000 allocation. Your earnings at 1% return would be $900. Then your performance fees, 15% of the earnings, would be €135. If you've got a live funded account, you would also earn money from your own trading in that same account. Let's say you average 2% return per month, you'd be looking at €270 on the silver package, or €4,500 on the gold if you got the absolute top earnings allocation 3 months in a row. So that's just an example of some of the performance fees that you could perhaps aspire to. And then there's also the potential of getting investors on board outside of the Darwinex Gold and Silver program, where investors come on and they like what you're doing and they put money against your stock code. So that would also increase the performance fees that you would be earning. So for example, I could share my link with investors And the platform would also be sharing my information or my stock code with investors. And if they chose to invest in my stock code, then I would also be earning performance fees on that as well. So whether you want to go Darwinex or Darwinex Zero, it's two different ways of getting funded. I much prefer the Darwinex regular platform because there's no monthly fees. It's a very similar style to that of a real fund manager role, except you don't have to go into the office or get told how you should be trading or follow particular rules. If you know how to trade and you're being realistic and you're managing your risk correctly, Darwinex is eventually going to allow you to get funded through their gold and silver programs and also external investors that they bring on. If you enjoyed this video or took something positive from it, please hit the like button below. It lets me know this is helping others. To see more great content like this, please subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay updated with the latest.